With a new year comes new year mantras for both the San Jose Sharks and for us.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young. I've been covering the Sharks since 2018. Also, the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making the Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, the number one sports podcast network, where we cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. And today, with a new year, I think brings new year mantras, resolutions, mantras, whatever, just things to keep in mind as we continue to go through a Shark season where they are very much ahead of schedule. We're going to be talking about why the Sharks should be looking for long-term defensive help, why the coaching staff needs to continue to lean on young players, and why we all just need to be a little bit more patient, especially when it comes with coaching staff, young players, et cetera, et cetera. So let's get started by discussing the defensive help for Askey. And yes, I know the Sharks are very much in a playoff spot now. That doesn't mean I think that they deviate from their, long-term plans here and become buyers at the deadline, all that fun stuff. Like, no, not wasting assets. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't still be looking to get core building block pieces. And I'm not talking like Quinn Hughes. Yes, that was not a move that I think the Sharks should have been involved in, because yes, as great as Quinn Hughes is and stuff, but it just really didn't fit and what the Sharks would have had to give up for a player like Quinn Hughes. Didn't fit, but that doesn't mean, again, not trying to go out and find long-term solutions for your defense here and really try to kind of solidify that defensive group in front of Yaroslav Askarov, and Yaroslav Askarov, who has been having to carry a ton of the load here this season, and is a big reason between him and Macklin Celebrini are kind of, I would say, the two big reasons why this Sharks team is ahead of schedule, because Askarov has been so great and because Macklin Celebrini has become a bona fide superstar right in front of our eyes, right? But I think, though, for San Jose, right, going whenever that next defensive player who's still, potentially young enough and can kind of fit into the Sharks' plans, whenever that player becomes available, that's where I think San Jose should be looking to try to add, right? It doesn't have to be like another John Klingberg type of experience, and we'll talk about Klingberg later on in today's episode, but still being aggressive. And we've seen, right, I mean, even Yaroslav Askarov, that was an aggressive move by Mike Grier to go add a piece that is going to be a foundational staple to your franchise in Yaroslav Askarov. And right, we don't know which defensive player that is, right? You look at maybe one of the guys in Buffalo, but what the way the Sabres have been playing, right? They've now won 10 in a row. Maybe they're not going to be so quick to try to move off of one of those young defensemen, even though all signs point to them eventually having to pick, to move off of one just because of the way the salary cap is, et cetera, et cetera. But, wherever like you can try to find someone who's going to help the blue line, right? And give you some more hope other than just Sam Dickinson and then, Eric Polkamp when he finishes college. And, even then with Polkamp, that's still going to be question marks. Do we realistically, do we expect Polkamp to kind of step in and be a potential, number one or number two defenseman? Maybe, but realistically, right? I mean, Polkamp was a 5th round overager pick who's had a very nice college career. Like, don't get me wrong on that. Like, he's had a very good college career, but I just think, like, if you're putting all your eggs in the pole camp basket, or Luca Cagnoni, who's, again, like, I totally believe in Luca Cagnoni. I think he's going to be a really good player. But I think for the Sharks, like, trying to get a bona fide NHL defenseman who can come in and fit with this group. And I think that should be, like, Mike Grier's number one objective this season, is to go out and try to find one of those. And the problem is, right, they just don't grow on trees. Nobody wants to give up a young defenseman like that, because, right, everybody's looking for them. Everybody is looking for them, and we see the price, right? Quinn Hughes, who's, again, one of the best defensemen in the world, went for the equivalent of 4 first-round picks between the players that were drafted, or the players that were selected, who are all former first-round picks, and then the number one pick that they gave up. But it's not like the Sharks don't have a plethora of picks and prospects, right? The Sharks have 2 first-round picks this year, 2 second-round picks this year. You have the best prospect pool in the NHL. I think we're going to start to see Mike Grier start to kind of maybe consolidate some of these assets soon, all right? Because you have Celebrini, you have Will Smith, who I know is on the shelf right now. You have Igor Chernyshov, who has exceeded all expectations in his early career. You have Askarov. You have Sam Dickinson. You have guys coming like Quentin Musty and, like I said, some of the, defensemen that we spoke from before. I think for Mike Grier, trying to kind of start to solidify. And yes, you're going to be able to get a potential top quality defenseman in this year's draft. But for the way that this team is heading, I think being a little aggressive here isn't the worst idea in the world. So, and it goes back to Asky, right? Take some pressure off of Yaroslav Askarov, so he's not having to make 38 saves on 40 shots or 43 shots or whatever he had to do against the Ducks, right? Where you're not having to have Askarov carry so much of the load, because that's that's one of the worst things you can do for a young goalie, is to just kind of heap the world on them. And Askarov has done very well this season. And I'm not saying like this is going to lead to Askarov, potentially flaming out or anything, but it is something I think you do have to kind of keep in the back of your mind, is just 1, the workload, and then 2, just the amount of work in said workload, where Askarov has been, under siege a lot of nights. And as the Sharks continue to get better, and siege becomes less and less night in, night out, and you get games like you did against the Wild, where it's much more even, those concerns will hopefully start to kind of ease up. But just the way that Askarov has been used this year, where he has been facing so many shots and so much workload, and kind of had to, you think about November, right, where he was absolutely outstanding, but a lot of that was him just saving the Sharks bacon night in, night out. So I think for San Jose, trying to find whoever that is, right, whoever that player is, trying to find that young defenseman who can come in and just be a long-term solution for San Jose. It doesn't have to be a number 1, right? Because the best way to probably find a number 1 defenseman is going to be in the draft, right? A top pick in the draft. But finding a guy who can just help act like a number 1 for a little bit, and then, kind of more likely solidify himself as like a, second or third defenseman for San Jose. So that's the number 1 thing for this new year, is go get that piece, right? Go make that next Askarov like trade, where you find that defenseman that can really help this team kind of start to take that next big step here. So we're going to talk about why I think Ryan Warsofsky should continue that, lean on the young players. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern Time have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. It's great because they just drop in a bunch of fun stuff. They have bonuses, boosts, surprises during those times. The timing is perfect right before the games start, right before the weekend starts. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right. Do, of course, want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. And thank you for making the Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't yet, go check out our Every Dare Club, especially the All Access. First of all, you get ad-free episodes of Locked On Sharks compatible with Apple, Spotify, every major podcast app. You get an invite to the Locked On Every Dare Club Discord server, which includes a group chat with Locked On Sharks, as well as one-on-one texting with me, plus extra stuff that we just can't do on the podcast, like film breakdowns. So go to lockedonsharks.supercast or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. All right. Mantra number 2, right? Mantra number 1, go get Askey some defensive help. Mantra number 2, lean on your young players, right? Because we know that this Sharks team is going to go as the young players continue their development, right? Yaroslav Askarov, Sam Dickinson, Igor Chernyshov, Will Smith, William Eklund, Musty, like all these young players who have started to make an impact or are going to be making an impact. Continue to allow them to grow and develop. Right. And we're starting to see a little bit more of it. Right. I mean, Chernyshov, who has hit the ground running, has 8 points in his 7 games and looks like an NHL mainstay. And, that comes a lot from his development as a player who played in the KHL, got to go up and light up the OHL last year, and then came in and stepped into a big role in the AHL immediately. He is a one of a kind. Not many players have the same path that he has, but for players like Sam Dickinson, I think it's especially here, continuing to give them a little bit more and more and more. And Dickinson, who's a player, who has seen his minutes grow and has started to see himself, on the peak, kind of second PK unit, and continues to grow and look more like an NHL player, even as a 19-year-old defenseman. Yes, he's still going to have his mistakes, right? In yesterday's game against the Wild, maybe not his cleanest game, maybe not his best tape. That's fine. You're going to have those moments with him, but you see those splash plays, right? Those plays that Sam Dickinson makes, and those plays that he, as a 19-year-old defenseman that you drafted in the first, round of the why you drafted him and why you think he's going to be an impact player for you. And right, all I think of is just like his ability to kind of read the play, jump in the offense, and make some of those plays, and almost be like that fourth forward, right? Especially with a kid with his size. So continue to lean on these guys, right? You see a guy like Colin Graff, who is, not the youngest of players, but, doesn't have has less than 100 NHL games under his experience. But look at how he has grown and developed and getting top 6 minutes and playing on the PK and has become an absolute dog. Like, these are the guys who are going to stick around, and you want to try to find out what you have with some of these young players and what they are going to be potentially for you down the road, and what type of roles that they're going to be able to fill for you. That way, what type of veterans you need to go out and acquire to help, kind of build and fill the gaps around some of these young players. So continuing to lean on your young players, right? And we know Celebrini, who the entire franchise is leaning on him, and he's doing the Herculean thing of just lifting this franchise by himself. But you're starting to see those contributions from players, right? Like I said, like Chernyshov, Will Smith, who was having an excellent season before his injury, and we still don't know what the timeline is for Will Smith and stuff, and we'll see if it's going to be, hopefully sometime this month that he is back, but. You're seeing just more and more contributions because, right, your John Klingbergs and, your Jeff Skinners and, some of these veteran players, they're just not going to be around here in the next couple years, right? Even a guy like Tyler Toffoli, who last year was a major part of the Sharks offense, has taken a step back because he's been replaced by some of these younger players. And I'm not saying Toffoli, his like his meaning and his contributions in the locker room and kind of being that Uncle Toffoli type of character and being a great leader, like those are very important as well. But just look at the on ice stuff with Toffoli. He's just not the same guy as last year. Granted, he's been replaced. Look, Graf and Chernyshov and Will Smith and some of these other wingers are just getting more opportunities because they have shown that they can just kind of do more. And I know Toffoli's not having the year that he wanted, and I think he can still be a quality piece for the Sharks right now. But this is going to continue to happen more and more. And I think for the Sharks, just leaning into these young players. And I think for some of these players like Sam Dickinson, that next step now is, playing on power play 2. And, we've seen his minutes kind of creeping up closer to the 17-minute mark, which is, I think, a really good mark. Like, I'm not saying Sam Dickinson needs to go out and play 25 minutes a night right now. I think that'd be a terrible idea for Sam Dickinson. But, right, 17, 18 minutes here as he continues to kind of earn those minutes, I think would be good. And for San Jose, when you get opportunities to call up guys like Filip Bystedt and Luca Cagnoni and Quentin Musty, guys who have starting to, prove it in the AHL, especially a guy like Bystedt, who I, can think is having a phenomenal season in the AHL and continually gets kind of overlooked because of guys like Musty and Chernyshov, letting these guys start to get some more of these opportunities because, again, a guy like Filip Bystedt kind of penciled in as your 3C of the future, or at least one of your options with him and a guy like Cole McKenney. At some point, you're going to have to see what you got with him, right? And I know Ty Dellanger's done a solid job in that roles, this season, but a guy like Bystedt, I think he gives you more juice offensively than what we've gotten from Dellandrea. And the big problem with the Sharks team, right, is if the top line isn't carrying the load, where else can you get scoring from? And I think a guy like Bystedt can provide some of that scoring. He has been, like I said, he's been having a phenomenal season in the AHL, very quietly in the AHL, just very consistent, just continuing to kind of doing his work. So Ryan Warsofsky, Mike Grier, the future is teal, but you got to start leaning on and investing, letting some of these young guys get their moments here sooner or later. So we're going to talk about patience, why all of us, myself included, need to just be a little bit more patient with the plan and with the process. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. All right. I do, of course, want to thank you for making a Locked On Sharks your first listen. If you haven't yet, go check out the All Access Club. Of course, you get ad-free episodes. You get Discord where you can join. There's Locked On Sharks. There's fantasy stuff. There's a bunch of great channels to go check out. So make sure you guys are checking that out at lockedonsharks.supercast. All right, the last mantra for this season is just we all need to be, myself included, more patient, right? With some of the veterans, with some of the young players, with some of the coaching staff. Let's start with the veterans first. And this is something that myself I very much, two players that have really come in mind with this, with just the patience. And that would be John Klingberg and Ryan Reaves, right? And Klingberg, who started the season abysmally, right? Myself, like, what are we doing here? A whole huge rant. Like, what are we doing here with John Klingberg, et cetera, et cetera? Just what it was. Nothing about this has worked out. And then all of a sudden, it clicked for John Klingberg, a guy who is coming off of, he literally has no hips, coming into a new role, trying to kind of figure out what his body can and can't allow him. And, we see those moments on the ice where he just doesn't have the same speed. But I think letting guys kind of getting used to it, especially when you have so many veteran guys who are coming into new situations here, right? Like we talked about just this blue line, just so many new players coming into new situations. So I think John Klingberg, I owe you an apology and a lesson of just being more patient. Same with Ryan Reaves, right? When that Ryan Reaves trade happened, I hated it. Just an absolute, like, what are we doing here type of situation. And Ryan Reaves has been a pleasant surprise. Like, I think, especially what we heard from, Toronto fans, what we heard from just like his play in Toronto, just it sounded like a guy who needed a fresh start, right? And Ryan Reaves has been I think a big time, not a big time, but I think has been an impactful player. And you see what he's done for the locker room, right? Him with the bringing in the chain or the shark tooth necklace, what he's meant for some of the younger guys. And then he's, backed it up. Like, did I expect Ryan Reaves to have 3 goals this season? No, especially not at the halfway point of the year. But the way that he has helped with that fourth line to bring some identity and bring some toughness that this team, I think, has lacked. Not only just physically tough, but like a mental toughness, right? Look at the way that this team has responded this year with their ability to just, hang in there with games, control leads, maintain leads, things that they just couldn't do over the past couple seasons. And I think a guy like Ryan Reaves, who has been there and done that and been on, very good teams and has played that role, the same type of role. I think a guy like Ryan Reaves, again, proving me wrong, why I'm just an idiot. So with the microphone, but so being one for me, just being more patient with some of these players and some of these moves. I think, too, patience when it comes to the young players, right? And, we have been spoiled with Macklin Celebrini making an immediate impact and Igor Chernyshov coming in and making an immediate impact. Not everyone is going to be Celebrini and not everyone is going to be Chernyshov when they come. And, being patient with their development, right? Yes. Do we want to see Michael Misa playing more and more? And, I know his World Juniors has been a little bit up and down, but the coaching staff here, again, I'm not saying the coaching staff is infallible and they know they know all and stuff, but just give them a little bit of time, right? And if a guy's not playing the role that we expect him to play or want him to play right away, we don't need to say this is the worst coaching staff ever and they're dumb idiots and what are they doing, et cetera, et cetera. Like, let's just see how things play out a little bit. Because you're seeing it's working out for Sam Dickinson, who the Sharks kind of spoon-fed some of his minutes very early on, and now you're seeing Dickinson get more and more comfortable, right? And Dickinson, who has not gotten maybe the production that you would wanted or expected, but he's looking really strong in his own end, and I think as he continues to be a solid pillar in the defensive end, you're going to see the production start to come with Dickinson. And especially if he can start to, earn those minutes with Celebrini and with that second line, and not just kind of playing with the bottom six that he has been playing with, for the majority of his NHL career to start. So, just patience, because things will eventually get there, right? When are they going to get to the fireworks factory? When are they going to get to they're going to get to the fireworks factory. Like, this team is going to be really good, but they want to make sure that they do it the right way and not put too much on a kid's plate right away. And I think that's the same thing with Michael Misa, right? Where, again, like, I would love to see Michael Misa playing second line minutes and playing 17 minutes a night. But right, he broke his foot or whatever he did to his foot or ankle. The World Juniors has been a little bit up and down. Do I think that Michael Misa is a bust? No, I still believe Michael Misa is going to be a really good hockey player. And for him, just look at the season he's had, right? He's played 7 NHL games, hurt his foot, played a couple games with the Barracuda, and then he's played a couple games with the Team Canada. Just the kid needs to kind of get into a rhythm here and play in the same place for a while. So that's why I think Misa, when he comes back, is going to start to put things together, because I still believe in all the other game tape and what I've seen from Michael Misa compared to a tournament, right? Don't get too high. One tournament does not make or break a player, but just being a little bit more patient with some of these players and with the coaching staff, right? And I think we've seen Warsofsky grow and develop, and we've seen what he has helped to do with some of these young players, and learning from his mistakes and leaning on more and more of these young players as they continue to get into places where they can be counted on more and more, and not make some of those silly mistakes. So, and when they do make those mistakes, not just benching them forever, like, and kind of giving those guys those little bit of that leash when they do make those mistakes. So again, Ryan Warsofsky, I still think is a really good coach, or has the potential to be a really good coach. So that's gonna be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow, where we're gonna we got something I'm cooking up. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts, and of course you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok at Locked On Sharks. First, really quickly, thank you to everybody who had, even if you watched one episode and said I'm an idiot, if you watch a couple, if you're one of those people who's there for every episode, thank you. Just looking at the analytics from last year, just in an absolute insane number. I doubled my YouTube views from the previous year. Like, the audio listens, just every one of you guys who, again, just chooses to spend 30 minutes a day with me. I still can't believe that I have one listener, let alone the, as many as I do. So thank you guys for, just sticking around as we continue to try to figure this thing out here. And hopefully, again, as this team gets better, maybe I might actually start to get better as well. So, but yeah, follow the show, follow me on Twitter and Facebook at my fry hole, and we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, bye, friends.